Hello and welcome to Sobricks. I'm Adam and this is Sobricks. This is my channel for reviewing Lego sets and building them and other Lego related stuff. In this video I'm going to be taking a look at the Lego Creator 3-in-1 Cool Cars set. This is set number 4939. It has 206 pieces and I paid $30 for this set. So I recently looked at the Rotor Rescue set. It was a set that I got used from a Bricks and Minifigures. It did have all the parts there. That set was, I think, from the 2009-2010 kind of era. And I recently saw this one. This is a sealed box, so not a used copy. As far as I know, it's a sealed box. Yeah. And this is from even earlier. This is from like 2007, 2008. So they did have the 3-in-1 kind of branding. I didn't have the original box for the Rotor Rescue set, but this looked really interesting. It did look like some cool cars. It did look like kind of vintagey Lego stuff here. And it's, again, in that 15 years old, approaching potentially 20 years old, in not so long. And I love building Lego vehicles. I love Speed Champions. I like city vehicles. There's lots of different vehicles that I like, and Creator 3-in-1 vehicles, frankly. And this looked really, really interesting to me, so I decided to pick it up. I got it, and now in this video I'm going to open this up. I'm going to put together the main build, the first cool car, and then I'm going to share my thoughts about it. In subsequent videos I'll be looking at what looks to be a race car, a open wheel race car, maybe a F1 adjacent type thing, and then in another video I'll be looking at this truck here, this truck cab build, and those will all come out after this. But in this one I'm going to build the main model. I'll speed the video up while I build, and then I'll slow it back down to review this set. So until then, enjoy. Okay, so while we look at the build for the main model for this Lego Creator 3-in-1 Cool Cars set, I just wanted to say thanks for watching, and then remind you, if you like the video, click the thumbs up. If you like my other videos, click the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I appreciate all the help. And then I wanted to talk about the build a little bit here. So this is an older Lego set, which is a thing that I talk about a lot at the beginning and in the full review. So it doesn't use like a big piece or a starter brick, as they're sometimes called, or a chassis kind of for a thing for the main base of this, but it does have some similarities with the 8-wide Speed Champions, and I hope I convey that properly in the full review. For the most part, this has a lot of just plates on top of plates. Some bricks are used. We have some stuff used for good detail. And then I actually did like how kind of the doors and the roof all came together. It's not really minifig scale, but it's close. It's this interesting kind of middle ground there that I really appreciate. So that's it for the build. And now on to my review for this set. Okay, so this is the Lego Creator 3-in-1 main model of the Cool Cars set. And this is pretty interesting. I think it's really fun to go back and look at older Lego sets, older Lego designs. And again, this might be kind of in the interim period. The last Creator 3-in-1 I looked at, that was from 2009-2010 era, had some elements that I thought were relatively modern in terms of building technique and piece usage and stuff, and there was other parts in some of the models that I think were maybe a little more retro vintage kind of building, and this is, I think, a little bit there too, but I do have some thoughts about this because I'm not a super knowledgeable historian about like when certain pieces came into existence. I try to keep up on new pieces, on a release to release basis, especially in the last few years. So when I was going through the more recent Speed Champions, I felt like I could pretty reliably explain, like, if there was new pieces. Sometimes I'll make note of a recolor and other things like that, but I don't know, there's some parts of this that make me think that there was potentially at the time not pieces that we have now that I think of as relatively common. So this is pretty interesting, and I'll just get right into it. There's no minifigure in this set. It's not really minifig scale, even though it kind of is, but kind of not, and I'll explain why a little bit later. I did want to show the instruction booklet. I use the online instructions, but this feels very vintage Lego to me for whatever reason, and I don't know how long they've been doing this for. You do get 2 instruction booklets here, but they're not separated by like the design, and just the yellow border with kind of this blue background is really interesting to me and feels old school. And then yeah, the first booklet finishes the main build, and then the back of it goes into the first alternate build, and then I don't believe, does that finish? Okay, maybe it does finish here, and then this one is just solely for the other alternate build. And is there... Okay, so no inventory there on the back, and I'm just kind of looking at these, and then, looking at other Creator or maybe Creator 3-in-1s that released around the same time as this, looks really wild to me. Like, this actually looks kind of interesting as like an excavator. This, as far as a brick build animal, looks very different than what they do now. Sort of, it depends. Like, this isn't so far off from the polybag Kiki's coconut thing, the Sonic one. This, in terms of like a robot or a mech or something like that, feels old school. And even looking at this house, if that did come with a base plate, that's really, really interesting. But the techniques in here are just I think harken back to a time potentially long ago, and so really interesting. This would be an interesting set to take a look at here. But anyway, we will look at the cool car here, and I would say this is a cool card. So I am pretty happy with this. The color is nice. I think it's yellow. I don't think it's green, but it could be. And this is really cool. So it's an 8-wide vehicle, which is what the modern speed champions are now. So you can kind of count these studs. So it is 8 wide. It does feel relatively block-ish, and there's a lot of kind of older style Lego things. Like, I don't think design wise and the overall shape and piece usage here is really comparable to modern speed champions, but I think I can see how like that progresses. I don't remember when the 6-wide speed champions were coming out. Maybe 2016, 2015, 2016, around that time. I think they were doing 6-wide ones, and so this is well before that. And I don't know for how long they've had sort of standards for vehicles like in the city line necessarily. I think they've been maybe 6-wide for quite some time here. So we have an 8-wide vehicle, and you start by building not on one of the chassis that I've come to expect. Like with the 8-wide speed champion, they have a chassis, but this kind of layout does look somewhat similar to the chassis they might use. And so we use some plates. Some of the directions here are kind of funny to me because I just don't see it the same way, where you have a step here where you start with a plate and then you add a bunch of this other stuff to a plate, and then you don't like connect this plate to anywhere until the next step. You just are supposed to line it up, push it up against there, and then you add this other plate going across to connect these two sections. But I think stuff like that isn't as common now, and I thought that was an interesting way to start. So that makes up the base of this. Actually, the car sits relatively low to the ground based on where the wheels are, because like down here, this whole gray portion is 3 plates thick, which is like a brick thick. And that's true kind of over here. And then over at the rear, it's actually like 4 plates tall for the dark bluish gray there. And then the rest of it's got a nice kind of yellow sport car, cool car look, and a little bit of black kind of highlights there and everything. So we start by building up the kind of main chassis and everything here. You do add the back bumper relatively early. That's on some 1x4 like studs on the side pieces. We do have these nice kind of metallic silver pieces there in the middle, which is nice. And then we do some like bracket usage and different things kind of up around the front to add the front bumper. You don't really add on the wheels until the very end, I believe, but there's kind of some weird empty space in here. Actually, you might be able to like see through right here. Yeah, like that. You can kind of see through that gap there, and I think that's true up here as well. If it's positioned right, you can kind of see through that, and there is some empty space in here, especially like going across, but it does have a designed interior, so you do spend some time putting in the interior seats and the steering wheel and everything like that. So we can take a look at that. There's not actually a super easy way to like pop the top off to get access here, but this does have really cool doors, and it's actually something that's advertised on the box. I don't know if they call these like butterfly doors or whatever. It's not quite like, or is it similar to the DeLorean, but different than like the, what was it? The Ford GT Technic set. So these doors open up like this, kind of vertically like that. So they looks like wing doors there, and we can see the inside. So it's like 3 plates deep right here or tall right here, but then the inside is recessed a little bit. So we do have this tile on the outside. We have some of the stuff in the center for that as well. But the kind of seat here is a different color, as well as the backing, and then it has a headrest up there using a cheese wedge. We do have a steering wheel. It's not operating anything, it doesn't steer. There is also like a lever piece that's maybe like a stick shift or something like that in there. There is a side on for the passenger that's got like a similar seat, and it actually has kind of like a plate with the bar here, maybe for like a glove compartment or something like that, which is pretty cool. So I like to see that. We do have some like vents up on the dash beneath the windscreen there, which is pretty cool. The windscreen is that older trans black, trans brown, dark translucent color. Same for these cheese wedges around here and the ones up front. So the modern color looks a lot better than this stuff does, but this does have its own kind of charm to it, I feel. The actual windscreen piece is small, and I don't know if they make it anymore. Let's see how easy it would be to take this stuff off. I'm not sure if you're really meant to. So it's the windscreen piece is 6 wide and goes back like 3 studs there roughly, and then this is pretty closed up in the back. There's not really any detailed engine work going on. Again, you can kind of actually see some of the gaps going through there, so it's got some one by whatever plates kind of running through here to connect everything, but there is some emptiness. There's nothing really under the hood as far as detail goes. So but I was happy to see like the inside was detailed. And then coming around the back, I think this curve is pretty nice. Using these angled plates is pretty good, even while we have like a ton of visible studs here, and the front is actually really square. I think they did a good job rounding out the back a little bit and tapering that in and giving us some layers in here and some different lines through there. We do have a little bit of a fin at the back, and we have a trunk which can open, and there is space in the back, so things could be put in there. So there's actually a good amount of space back there, and the trunk is just a 4x4 plate, and we use a couple of these 1x1 plates with the clip, and then these pieces with actually this piece that they use for the side mirrors in black to kind of go on the side of the bar piece to make that. So one of the things I was wondering is whether or not they didn't maybe they didn't have the 1x2 plate with the 2 clips at this point, because I would think the top of this door area here is a 1x1 with a clip and a 1x1 with a clip. And now I would think they would use a 1x2 that has the 2 clips attached to it, which I would feel like is a pretty common piece. But in this case, it's done with, just 1x1s there. So that's interesting. And that's the same back here, which I was kind of surprised by, I think, because to me, in my mind, that felt like a piece that maybe has been around for a long time. And maybe it did exist at this time and they just chose not to use it for whatever reason. And that could be a legitimate thing. We do use a ton of cheese wedges in here. So all along the side, same on the other side, the back fin there. And then up at the front, we use 4 for the lights, as well as kind of the front hood area there. There's 4 more. And then we do use them a bunch more to kind of make these brick built fenders, which I've seen this kind of technique and strategy used in certain vehicles that are even modern vehicles. I don't know if they're done quite the same way. You can see like these are offset height wise a little bit. They just use the headlight brick, and I don't know for some of them if they didn't quite make the 1x1 brick with the stud on the side that wasn't a headlight brick, where it didn't have the indent and the open back, because for something like this and this, you wouldn't really need the open back for any real reason. But for the ones back here, the open back is nice because we can put a translucent red stud in there to indicate brake lights, or just lights on the back of the vehicle. Also, I can still see mold marks in these cheese wedges, but for like the 1x1 plates, or sorry, the 1x1 tiles, and even by these 1x4 tiles, the mold mark is not as visible as it is on modern ones, because it's not on the side of any piece here. It's actually in that middle of the kind of center tube coming down from the bottom of this tile. And that's true for the 1x1 tiles as well, which in modern times, I think, or maybe it's not true for this one. I think it is. In modern Lego in 2024 and 2023 and other stuff, these 1x1 tiles typically have a mold mark on one of the sides. And in this case, in 2007, it might be hard to see, but the mold mark is in the center on the bottom, in kind of the cutout where a stud would go in there. And I think there may be reasons why they changed from that, and the reasons don't all have to be bad reasons, like being able to produce the piece faster or pull them out of the mold quicker, or something to do with like just saving money or saving time, saving materials. It could be that there's a structural reason or something else that changed how those pieces were made, but it is something that I made note of. I think with the cheese wedges, the mold marks aren't terrible, but they feel about on par with what we see in 2024, 2023, 2022 for a little while here. But for some of these other pieces, I definitely did make note of that. I think it's interesting that, like, if I'm talking about these brick built kind of fender wheel well areas here, up at the front, we do use the cheese wedge on the headlight brick, but then above that, this is just like one plate thick coming off of here. Same right there. It's tiered a little bit to kind of get that slope, but it's just one plate thick, and then that feels very retro Lego to me. Not only does this feel kind of crude, kind of blockish, kind of square, when in modern Lego I think it would be much more curvy and fluid and smooth. So there's a little bit of charm to that, and I think the effect here is still pretty cool. The wheels are some wheels that we still see. I think the tires and the rims are relatively common even now, so that's fine, good even. And the piece that they're on is, I think I was kind of surprised because it's on a 1x2 brick with the Technic pin instead of maybe a 2x2. And if I remember correctly, there is room to make a 2x2, but actually if I pop the wheel off, or if I pop all the wheels off, you can maybe get a better sense of how kind of empty some of this is. And I think that's important to note. It does keep the piece count relatively low. So if we look at here, kind of a lot of space through there on either side, front and back of the kind of axle, and above that. Of course, at the back, this does then make up the trunk area there, and then we do have details in the middle, and then up at the front, we have the area on the front and back of the axle, and then we just have some plates kind of stacked up, studs on top, stuff going up to there, and then culminating in just these 2x3s essentially being attached to 2 studs, and then just having that tile placed over them, which is a technique that I just don't think Lego would really employ anymore. And I think the same is for that piece, where it's these 1x3 plates here, just kind of attached like that, and then we have the 1x4 tile to put over that. And I think it ends up looking nice. It's just not, I think, the most structurally sound. It's not the most elegant. It's not the most kind of authentic looking thing here. So it really has that Lego quality to it that I think I'm actually, I know there are some people that like that and don't maybe like when stuff is all tiled out and there's not as many studs and stuff like that. I personally really like modern Lego design. I like old Lego design too, but this is a kind of an interesting time period here where, again, I think it's kind of in this transition period from maybe very old Lego from the 70s, 80s, 90s into the early 2000s to what we have now. And I don't think the design philosophy was implored and changed in all themes at the same time. So there probably are sets from 2007 in certain themes that have what I would consider to be somewhat more modern, elegant design aspects to it. And I'm not positive about that, but I just have a feeling that might be correct. And this might be one that has a little more retro style designing to it. And they could have been, there's sets that could be way more advanced than this and feel way more modern that release at the same time. Just like in the modern era, I think we could see kind of more basic stuff out there. I don't believe they would make this set the same way now, and I think there's evidence to suggest that based on other Creator 3-in-1s that are being released in the last couple years. So this was a really interesting look back here, and as interesting and as informative to me as maybe the Rotor Rescue set was. So that's really, really cool. It drives nicely. I don't have a Speed Champion 8 wide immediately next to me to kind of be able to compare it, but it is 8 wide. It might feel a little bit short compared to some of them, or it might be very comparable in size. I don't know about like height actually. The 8 wide Speed Champions do often have minifigures, and I tried to put a minifigure in here just as I did with some of the Rotor Rescue alternate models, and I don't think there's any real way to get somebody in there. So even if I, sit them down all the way, I don't, the door's not going to be able to close, the roof is not high enough, and they can't get their legs under the steering wheel. There's no way to like attach them to anything. So it's really not minifig scale, even though maybe it could be altered, so it could be by removing, I'm not sure, it might just not be doable with this. And so the modern 8 wide Speed Champions do come with minifigures, so those are minifig scale, and this is not quite there. So kind of interesting. I will have to keep that in mind when I look at the alternate builds, because it could be that the alternate builds, a minifigure can fit in, and perhaps they even look somewhat okay in there. So that'll be interesting to see, but I'll cover that in another video here, and I'll show the extra pieces because you do get some. You get your 1x1s, so the like metallic silver, the black stud, and the translucent red stud, a 1x1 tile there, as well as the lever or joystick kind of piece. And this set is 206 pieces, and I paid $30 for this set. So in the modern era, when Speed Champion sets are now $27 and the new ones that are coming out soon are $27, or $45, $50 for the 2-pack. Some of those have more pieces, more modern pieces. They also have like stickers and a minifigure, and it's not a one-to-one direct comparison here, but comparing this to other city vehicles, Creator 3-in-1 vehicles, there's a lot of modern things I can compare this to. And no, I don't think this is necessarily a $30 set. I don't think it would retail for $30. In fact, I believe in 2007 this retailed for like 13 or 14. I don't even think it was up to 15. I think it was lower than 15, but I'm not 100% positive here. And if it is, $13, $14, I think that's totally reasonable, and I would love for them to have some, sets as robust as this and cool as this in that price range. I do love a lot of the $10 Creator 3-in-1s, but I just don't think they're quite like this. Even that vintage motorcycle set, or there was like a street race car set from a little while ago that was maybe $20, and it could have been quite a bit bigger than this, but I don't remember exactly. And I think this is a pretty interesting scale and price point. So I paid $30 for it. This is a set from quite a long time ago here, and 17 years or whatever it is, and it was sealed. So when I got the Rotor Rescue, I didn't pay too far off of its retail price, but it was used. It did have all the pieces, but it didn't have the original box. And this one was just fully sealed. So someone bought it, or a store had it or something for all these years and never opened it, and I was able to open it. And I sort of understand there's occasionally a premium on retired sets. That's sort of the nature of the way Lego sort of does things, and I think there are better value sets to get for $30, but because I had just kind of went on a journey with that Rotor Rescue set, this really, really caught my eye when I saw it for sale, and I felt like $30 was fine in this case, even though there are better sets with probably more to them and are better designed that I could get for $30 in 2024 that are like currently on the shelves. So it's just kind of something to go back and get a sealed set from a while ago, and kind of look back on what Lego used to be and what they do now. And I think that has a kind of hard to quantify value to it. And so I felt like this was an acceptable price. I think it's also about the market price for this set, which makes sense when I looked in some of the other aftermarket places where one might buy this. It seemed to be, for a sealed copy, is usually around $30. So that's okay to me, and I really enjoyed the main build. And when I think about value for Creator 3-in-1s, I'd have to go and see how I feel after I build the alternate models. It could be that it makes sense to me if these other models are very, very good, that like this is a $10 set, and this is a $10 set, and this is a $10 set, even though I can't build them all simultaneously. It could be that maybe this one's $15 and this one's $5 and this one's $10, depending on the breakdown and the piece usage and stuff like that. And again, I'm not going to be able to build those all simultaneously, but I do get to spend a lot more time with this, with these pieces, and with other models designed around the same time as this. So that has its own value in my mind, and I look forward to doing that. If you're interested in seeing my videos for the other models in this set, maybe consider subscribing. And I think that's it for this video. So if you like this video, please click the thumbs up and give it a like. If you like my other videos, click the subscribe button. Like I said, it's down below, and then you can stay up to date on all the Lego videos I'll be doing here in the future, including the alternate builds for this set, as well as tons of other Lego sets from all different themes, all different shape, size, price point, piece count, old sets, new sets, used sets, just a bunch of different stuff. So subscribe so you don't miss any of those upcoming Lego videos. It helps me a lot. Subscribing is free and it means a lot to me, so I appreciate it. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I appreciate all the help. So thank you for helping me try to achieve that next goal. It's really, really nice, and I just am very grateful. And then if you wanted to support this channel in a different way, you could do that here on YouTube with membership, supers, and thanks. And I have the Patreon. It's in the video description on my channel page, patreon.com/sobricks. So maybe consider checking those things out. Again, I'm just very, very grateful to anybody who does check those things out or gives to those things. It is very meaningful and helpful. So thank you very much. And I enjoyed this. So I think that's it. And with all that said, until next time, thanks. Bye.